Let's just wait and see if we are on live. Yes, and we are on live right now. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are with me right now and if Meta has um, pushed the algorithm to your eyeball right now, you're looking at me, Vicky Esther Chang, and Alex Chen there, either there or there, but definitely we are here. Um, just at the backdrop of this beautiful Singapore iconic Marina Bay Sands, an integrated resort, and a little bit about today. Now it's 9:06 p.m., 13th of May, and we are almost like um, in the mid of 2025. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being with us at State of Our World, uh, Humanity for Better or for Worse. And today we're going to talk about AI and humanity, particularly on the topic of ethics and AI and the path forward. And Singapore, a bit about Singapore for our international audience, particularly our American audience. Singapore is always welcoming. We're always welcoming. Come on to Singapore. Um, you know, we should have a world that understands more and embrace each other more. And I'm glad to say that probably the tariffs are coming down between many countries. I hope that heralds a great outlook for 2025 finally. Yeah, it's a great time to be alive because we are at the fork of the road. We either can choose to be at the dark side, to go to the dark, or we can embrace the changes and the development that is throwing its way to us. And today, if you remember, I had another podcast, Alex, with Ralph Ave from California, and we talked about civilization, and we put aside material development, but we talked about values and civilization as a general, whether we are being better off as humans or not. That was a difficult topic because we talked about things that is unseen. So let's talk about the technology and development and economics. Over to you, Alex. Tell us where you are and who you are and the topic for us today. And ladies and gentlemen, you can go below and look at the notes that we're going to talk about today. Alex, over to you.
Hi, everybody. Right, I'm Alex Chan, Video Space. We are into searching videos. Right. Again, if you use Google and ChatGPT and all this, right, you will notice that there's one thing that Google still cannot search in terms of content, right? One format, and that's videos. So that's what we do. Right. You go on to YouTube, you try to look for things that's within the video. You still can't do that. And this is what we do. So in order to do all these things, you can imagine the kind of elements that you have within videos, right? Voices, visual elements, and there's a lot of it. So we have been using quite a lot of AI, a multimodal AI, probably in a total of maybe between 30 to 40 different kinds of AI to extract data from videos. So that's what we do. I mean, just to be able to for the world to search it, right? And if you really think about it, not even 1% of whatever videos out there are being searched or analyzed. So our world is actually a very big world, right? And we are only barely scratching the surface, really barely. But in the process of what we do, we go to many places, right? And AI has been front and center of the things that we do simply because there's absolutely no way to analyze videos at a human level. The only way to do this is via AI. And we are fully aware, right, of things that happen and the good and the bad that things it can do. It comes
Yeah.
to a point where that in 20 last year, right, 2024, we decided that we had to put up a statement on our website and declare that we will have a clause on responsible AI. And to
Mm.
us, it boils down to a couple of words. We'll do things where AI as if people matter, right? We took I took a long time to really think about this, and today's topic is really about that. I think it's AI and ethics. I don't even think that we can talk about one tenth of whatever we want to talk about in a
There.
podcast.
And we are back online. We are
Mm.
back online because there is a glitch.
Oh,
If someone is, there is a glitch online, Alex, just to pause a little bit, if anyone is hacking into the system, don't worry, we are just very kind, nice people because my system has been um, grievously hacked for a month. This is a new computer that I have. I'm using a new laptop that I just got because my
oh,
old laptop is so badly hacked and crashed. So today we're going to talk
oh.
about AI. If you look at the Platinum platform where we are at, where Alex has been so kind to um, give us the notes today, please go to Platinum platform wherever you are. If you do see us wherever you are, if you're from the US, because I see the numbers going up and down here, people coming in and out. Welcome to Singapore virtually. We are always warm and welcoming, and I am Vicky Cheng, and you've got Alex Chan as the co-host over there. And go below us, below at the points there. We're going to talk about today in summary what is ethics. Ethics is a branch of philosophy that studies morality, and he's going to go into meta ethics. Alex is going to talk about normative ethics, um, uh, utilitarianism and applied ethics, and we will talk about AI and ethics and the regulation of AI and responsible AI. I think for the couple of years, Singapore has been trying to push hard on the conversation of responsible AI, but we haven't gone into um, AI and regulation yet because it takes the whole world to come together to agree on certain measurements and certain benchmarks. So, even
Mm.
before coming to you, Alex, in the media where I'm teaching, we talk a lot about Alex. We talk a lot about ethics and the media. For example, to make it easy and to break it down for our viewers and audience, not to go into it too difficult and too deep. In some of the topics that we talk about between ethics and media is what do you report, as a citizen journalist? Would you want, because of the eyeballs, you want to record violence in the street, a killing is happening, that you're recording as a bystander because you know that the eyeballs will go up, the numbers will go up, or you will put down your camera, not do it, and stop the violence? So there's a lot of things about ethics going on, a lot of school of thoughts, and definitely, these are some of the things, as a media journalist or as citizen journalist, that all of us are, because we're all holding the handphone, and like what Elon Musk say, we all are the media right now, because we can post anything as a form of social news. They may not be traditional media news, but we are a form of a news. And also, I think the other ethical dilemma um, that we do discuss about is, if you post a particular news and you try to gear the opinion of your viewers to a particular viewpoint, is that ethical? I mean, there's a lot of influences on the tops of that. So, without further ado, Alex, I would really love for us to come in, because you know that the Platinum platform and what we do here is just to document the voices. We're not doing it for profit. It's a non-profit endeavor, but it's hopefully is an endeavor that's worthwhile, because we leave our voices and we leave our views and our thoughts behind, as a legacy. So welcome, Alex, to the Platinum platform and talk about life.
Yeah,
Alex,
I think you touched on that, right? I mean, what are we doing this, and why are we doing this? Even doing this, right? If not for good, then Yeah, I think that's philosophically. I think we I mean, to be here, I if it's not for the in a way no good for all, then I think we'll rather not do this and spend time with the family, right? I think so. So I think we are working on spending precious time in order to talk about this, and I think this is truly important as well, right? And obviously we've been working on with AI for a long time, but I think the reality here is that I mean we work with customers, we work with end users, and very often people don't really think about the safety part of it and even the ethics part of it, right? Not conversations that we have typically every day, right? But it's just that the things that we do happens every day, right? In terms of ethics, and I like to roll back, right, and put maybe perhaps put a definition on ethics, right? Because if you look at the ethics is the entire body of work, right, in philosophy that is we just don't have time to talk about, and it's just way too much, right? And AI ethics is just a small branch of applied ethics, right? So the to sort of really define what ethics is really about the study of morality. I mean, morality meaning that to do what is right and what is wrong and what is good and what is bad, right? In terms of definition. But that in itself, if you think about it, is fundamentally very deep and it's really about humanity. Unfortunately, right? Or whether is it fortunately or unfortunately, I think there's no real agreement on what ethics is because, and that comes the difficulty because we have to agree on certain set of ethics, right? And I think why AI becomes so important that we really have to talk about ethics is not just because of its speed, not just because of its scale, because of the capabilities, and but I think it boils down to that one word, and that one word I put it down in my notes is autonomous because you will come to a point where AI will be able to make decisions just like a human being. When that happens, I mean, if you a human being decides on something, there's the law that governs the whatever actions, right, for the human beings. But at this point in time, if a robot does something or an AI does something, what's the recourse, right? So I think it's again a very important thing that we talk discuss that we discuss about it. I mean, at a not only at a personal level, at perhaps even at the company level or a business level, whether you're adopting it or whether you're creating it, at a community level, perhaps even at a national level, but also at a global level as well.
Yeah,
But
and I think this topic is very relevant now because since the last time we spoke over a month ago on AI and humanity, we did talk about the AI race, the arms race, and things have changed a lot. If you look at some of the things that I'm looking at, because you're the AI practitioner, but I do look at it from someone who's just an observer, reading whatever that's coming out every day. The speed, it's not only accelerating, it's breathless. That pivotal change that we are undergoing as we talk is just mind blowing. And the thing is that I'm glad we are bringing this topic front and center to our viewers. You know, the numbers are going up and down. People are coming in and out, watching the show. And welcome to the Platinum platform, and welcome to us talking about this very important topic, ethics and AI, because we are now talking about companies or corporations. They're wanting to be that AI superpower. Whether they're going to be profit or non-profit, they just want to be the superpower. So money and profit probably is not the measurement anymore. And for them to be that superpower of AI, um, my my concern is something has got to give. Uh, you've got to give into something in order to beat your competition. And that is something that we don't know because as a general public, we don't understand what goes on in the black box. As much as Geoffrey Hinton says, he even doesn't know what really goes on in the black box. Just as much as a lot of scientists are now talking about, we are linking the AI brain or the AI to the human brain, the neurons, how it actually works. And human beings do know and can describe how the brain works, but really we don't know how it works, how the mind works. Um, and if we had really known how it works, we'll probably be able to get a diagnosis for a lot of mental health problems.
Well,
Um,
I don't think we want to know how we work, right? But I think as long as there's an output, and the brain does what it does. Look, I mean, do you need to be a mechanic to drive your car? Or do you really need to understand how the car works in order to drive
yeah,
it?
we need
You
some,
don't, right?
yeah, but then when it breaks down, we need some mechanics.
Oh, sure, of course. Well, that's another thing altogether, right? So do we look for a mechanic, but so you don't fix the car yourself? My point here is that
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
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 we don't. So I think we don't really exactly, and that's the reason. That's the world, isn't it? Right? We use AI, we don't really question it, but there are consequences.
yeah.
So I think we have the reason why I thought this is
Totally,
so important,
totally. Yeah.
and and the importance of it at the point where last year I even wrote a paper on AI safety, right? From a perspective of a practitioner. The well, you can actually just Google video space and AI safety. The paper is actually on the website. You can download it, right? But my point here is that when one of the reasons why we really thought that we need to write it because there really isn't anything out there that sort of governs us other than our own
Mm,
conscience, right? So going back to say, for example, the last big shift in terms of the our technology landscape, right? Social media. Social
mm,
media started, I think, early 2000s, right? But so I was just going through and doing my research, and I was just looking at social media. When are the laws and regulations that started to to regulate social media in terms of how is it being presented and how is it being used? And if you look at the dates, I mean, I put an annex to the document. If you look at the dates, all these laws only started like maybe 2015, different countries, 2019, 2024. Say, for example, in Australia, the Online Safety Act is 2021, right? You, if you look at the laws, the 2021 and the social media started early 2000s, right? The noughties, right? 2003, 2004, that's when social media. So it took us 15, 20 years
yeah,
just to start realizing, hey, I think we need to sort of put some guardrails on social media. But
yeah.
isn't that a bit late? Because,
Mm,
I'm not saying, look, I am all for it because I think we definitely need some sort of guardrails, right? But it took us many, many years for us to sort of realize that it's like, hey, we open up this genie and we can't shove it back into this bottle. So,
yeah.
but still, we will have these guardrails. But it's better late than never. But unfortunately, a lot of the damage has already been done, right? I mean, I shan't go into all these whatever examples, right? But I think AI is going to be the same, and in terms of the scale, is going to be even faster than whatever that's happened with social media, right? And imagine AI with social media that is gonna
It's
explode, and
digital.
6G is
Yeah,
coming, right?
yeah.
Is
That's
so
what we're already
everybody's
facing. Yeah,
yeah, exactly, right. So everybody is a broadcaster now because 5G is here, 6G is here. We're dealing with media, social media, right? And then you have this explosion of AI, which is already happening.
yeah,
And I think we probably in different regions will probably have to start thinking about, hey, what are we going to do? Is it how are we going to safeguard the next generation, whether is it for children or how we use it and things like that. So I think we need to have some sort of an oversight, an overview of
mm,
things of
mm,
of on how we regulate this. But the good news is I think we have already started. Many countries have already started. I think that's good news, right? We have China, we have EU. Well, of course, the EU AI Act that was last year in I think August 1st, right? And it's still an ongoing process, right? In Australia as well, there's talking about high risk, and that's actually this year, right? from social media, right? But and various countries they started looking there. I think that's a very good start. But one unfortunately, I think there's one country, right? I'm not going to point. Just the one country is very obviously not listed, right? Is actually United
The
States.
US. Mm.
Yeah. Look, I think something. I'm just going to repeat this because this is when Trump came on board, right? One of the first things that he did was within a couple of hours of taking the oath of office, right? I
Yeah.
think it was reverse a couple of executive orders, and one of them actually is for the safe use of and safe development of the use of AI. That's one of the first things. That was
For military also, right?
yes, right, and in February, I think early this year, definitely last this quarter. I mean, last quarter, uh, they have the International AI Declaration, right? Again, UK and US refused to sign. Again, I think that's for whatever reason that they cited. I think is really about, but this further demonstrates the difficulty that we all have. I mean, the dilemma that countries face, whether is it to right to develop full steam ahead and not really. I won't say I won't want to use the word don't care, right? That's not right. But I think everybody cares. But I think it's a matter of we have our own agendas before having a collective agenda. So hopefully, well, we don't know what in years to come what is its consequences. But I do really think that there should be some sort of a global governance, right, in terms of having this so-called AI guardrails or at least some sort of agreement for um, AI ethics, right?
Yeah. Would you want to talk deeper about some of these um, normative aspects of ethics, the normative ethics?
Right. When we talk about in terms of novelty, what do you mean?
Normative ethics, because here I'm looking at your point that the moral standards that regulate right and wrong conduct.
Right. Okay. So this branch, I think is really about setting standards to regulate the right and the wrong conduct, right? Is really about a framework of how one ought to act, right? So there are some
Yeah.
theories about this. Again, without going deep into the theories, I think it's something that we have to really think about in terms of consequences. Because I think if you look at from a consequence perspective, morality, whatever you do with morality, there's an consequence because of the action. So how we will normally behave, how we will behave, is really down to that morality, right? Um, it's like, for example, if you say cannibalism, it's unthinkable, right? But it happened. So whether is it acceptable in certain societies or not for certain societies. So I think it's really down to that. So question here would be, what is for the greatest good and for the greater number? So again, is democracy itself, you know
Utilitarianism.
yes, right. Well, utilitarianism is again different from very different from, because it's really about, but you with utilitarianism there is something called the tyranny of the majority, meaning that if the majority benefits, that's utility is highest, right? But it also means that you will have the tyranny of the majority over the minority. It's a little bit like a democracy, actually. Right? If you go to the voting booth, and after the elections, one side is 51%, the other one is 49%, right? The 51% will be in favor of this 51% rather than the 49. So there is actually a tyranny of the majority over the minority. Whether again
So,
that is
so
good or bad
if,
thing,
if we were
that's
to
not the
if
discussion.
we were to apply that ethics in using applied ethics for AI,
Right.
are you able to um, give us like maybe a couple of two more concrete examples about some of these ethical dilemmas or these ethical um, aspects of AI that the world will face, either from the developer point of view, from the user point of view. Yeah.
Right. I mean, if you see, so I'm a practitioner, right? Think about it. I'm the practitioner here because AI to us would be at a very fundamental level is a tool. So the question here is how do we use that tool in the work that we do,
Mm-hmm.
right? And how do we extract? So we have to decide. Okay, I'll give you a very good example. Under the EU AI Act, um, we can't do sentiment analysis, right? So
Oh,
we can't, right?
tell us about that. It sounds really interesting. What is a sentiment analysis?
Meaning that if I even in this podcast, right? Are
Mm,
can you use actually use AI to analyze what we say and to see whether that sentiment is a positive sentiment, negative sentiment, and things like so basically using AI to do this, right? But of
mm,
course, at a human level, you can because if you hear us, if
mm,
you hear me, I'm smiling.
mm,
Maybe I have that happy expression. You can see me, and in terms of the expression, right, you can, but you just can't use AI to do that. But in other parts of the world, that's perfectly fine, not a problem, right? So the real question here would be ethics for who? Ethics for who? Simply because we're different geographically, right?
mm-hmm.
But I also think that we also have to start somewhere because if you don't put a marker down,
Yeah,
if you don't put a marker down,
yeah,
it's really about not putting anything down. When you put a marker down,
yeah.
then you can start saying, oh, okay, maybe in future, maybe within the EUA, they say, oh, maybe we can actually allow this in future because okay, maybe this is just way too strict, right? I think the point here is that if you don't start looking at it, start thinking about second making certain sense of whatever that we can imagine to be,
Mm,
we will never do it. Simply because as humans, like I said, social media. I think we already know that a lot of things are already happening in the first 10 years, right? And only after it became really it, I won't say it took over our lives, but I'm pretty sure everybody who's actually watching this podcast is involved in social media one way or another. In fact, we are being streamed on social media too, right? So social media in a sense is pretty much ingrained into our lives, right? But the question here would really be at what spectrum, right? Is it doing you generally? Is it doing? Is it useful? Is it good or is it bad?
yeah. And
The
I
will
I
be
like
very much
to.
somewhere
Yeah.
in the middle.
And also to for the viewers and the audience who are tuning in, because we see the numbers going up, people are tuning in live right now. If you can comment below, those of you who are watching us right now, you can comment below, pose us a question to Alex and myself. You like some of these questions to be answered, or some of the comments here. I like to bring up the point about I'm a gamer. I also know that Elon Musk is a gamer because he plays a lot of different kinds of games, and he streams in his private jet, and he goes around the globe because he says he's trying to test his Starlink, whether it's stable as he plays his games. Um, I like to talk about certain games for the benefit of our audience. We're trying to like break this down into very concrete sense, and I'm not quite sure what's Alex's take on it. I play this game called The Sims. I've been playing it for many years. It's only like currently I don't do that um, because of my time. I've got like a couple of books. I'm trying to like write almost like three books at the same time. I've been playing this game, and it has evolved. It's almost like over 10 years. It has evolved as uh, different versions. Alex, we've got the version one, version two, version
No,
three,
here.
version four,
Are you
etc.
I play the Sim City. You're playing Sims, right? I used to
Yeah,
play Sim
Sim
City.
City. Yeah, Sim City. So you can build your cities. You can have your own avatar, etc. So I want to relate this to our audience, to mothers. to teens who are players, potential players, or mothers or fathers are out there. Now, I used to play this game. I like it so much because you are able to almost like when you're young, you kind of play the doll, right? You play the doll, you kind of change the dress, the hairstyle, the makeup. And things are improving so much that a free will has been imputed into your avatar. Means I create the avatar, I give it a name, I give it a gender, a race, etc., and it lives in this house. And it's almost like a game within a game you can create because I can create the house that it lives with challenges and obstacles, which I do, and see how it lives within the house. Does it go upstairs to the kitchen, and when it's really hungry, it has to like travel so hard just to get to the kitchen because it's hungry? Or does it when it's like when it's needs because they have its needs also. I think Alex would know, but maybe some of the audience do not know. I mean, just like a human being, the avatar has needs, social, food, just like a Maslow hierarchy of needs. I mean, you've got your very basic physiological needs, and then you've got needs for belonging, you've got needs for affiliation, um, uh, uh, actualization, etc. So the Avada has that. And the Avada also has a need to make friends in the game. And I would like to relate this to our audience and to Alex about my observation of it as the versions change. And for those audience who are listening in, listen in close. Now, I do create girls, right? Female avatars. And the female avatars have social needs. And then if I stopped controlling its actions and let it go on free will, it will have a tendency to make friends with girls and boys in the game. Now think about this. And as the game versions progresses, the free will comes to a point whereby female avatars are drawn and attracted towards other female avatars. And they want to have relationships and to form families and then to go to bed and have a particular intimate relationship on the beds. Now,
Mm.
can you imagine, as I talk to other AI experts on this, of course, we know that AI in the past or AI currently is all developed by humans, right? Its tendencies, etc., etc. But from my point of view as a user, I have noticed and I got a shock when the free will of an avada is geared towards having intimate relationships with other females. And not only that, it wants to have other relationships with other people without other avatars knowing that they have these relationships. It starts to want to have this promiscuous relationships, and then they want to have like babies in promiscuous families. Now, that of course, that are different versions uh, of the
I'll show you.
games.
I'll be a devil's advocate, right? Is there anything
Yeah.
wrong with it?
No.
Look.
So
I'm not saying that,
no,
right?
that again, it's about I'm trying to just describe,
Yes,
trying to
of
just
course.
describe the game that for me I get a shock because it's not what I would expect, so the expectation has changed. But can you imagine I have a niece, and the niece is like she's like 14 years old, she's playing the same game as I do, and then one day when I met her, she says that she's got like how many babies with how many different people, and it's like I'm so shocked, and I'm thinking of the question. Yes, it's just a game, but I'm also thinking of like what Alex is saying, that certain morality. I don't know how you define it, so I'm just going to pose it to you, Alex. Not in a normative judgment, because in a scientific way you let it go free run, free will. But I think on the other side, from a normative judgment way, then I would impute my value onto this.
Mm.
And that would be where I think the line is. I'm using this to extrapolate the world that AI will go. And I'm not just talking about SimCity or the Avada. I'm talking about certain things that we will struggle with. A chat with GPT, a chat with Gemini, a chat with XAI, for example. You know how it gears us towards a particular point of view. So I think that's the kind of, maybe I'm really quite shallow in terms of my analysis, but from a user point of view, these are the things that I feel that we have to be very aware of, Alex. So I'm just going to throw this to you. At which point are we analyze the case study that I just brought forward?
So I think there has to be an agreement, right? Like for example, you said your niece is 14, right? So is 14 an appropriate age? So again, it depends on society. Child marriages are still in existence, right? Child marriages in 10, 12. It happens in some countries and some regions. So is that right or is that wrong? We, look, I'm not. We're not here to judge, right? we
Let's talk about Elon Musk having the 14th or the 15th or the 16th
right.
child with
My
like
point
the
here.
upteenth number of women.
So the point here is that the point here would really be look. Then I'll pose you. I'll pose another question. If you like another person, does it matter if the person is? Does the gender matter?
Yeah. So I
Maybe,
think
maybe
that's the
not, right?
question, right? We're
So
talking about that benchmark is different from every society, that
right,
yardstick is different, and
right.
then we're talking about AI probably having some guardrails, etc. I mean, in a very divergent discussion, these are the things that is facing us right now already, even in games that we don't even know that is already happening around us.
Yeah. So let's put it there. We're not even talking about AI right now, right? We're talking about, say, for example, I think in last month, I think in April, in UK, the UK Supreme Court actually had a definition of the word woman, right, which is on the biological sex where you are to enter into, say, for example, sports. So you have to be a biological woman. So the definition in itself, we're still trying to struggle with the definition within the country and impact on sports and equality and whether is it a same sex and it's an ongoing debate, right? But it goes down to ethics and go down to morality as well, right? But eventually it'll come down to it has come down to a law, legislation, regulation that says, okay, we need to define it, right? So UK Supreme Court has defined that, and I think that's probably the right thing, right? Of course, I said probably. I think, right, because if you look at it, being equal, you biological women versus non-biological women in terms of sports, and if you're man before and then you become a woman, and so the biological is totally different in terms of the and where so basically where it basically means that transgender women will no longer be allowed to compete in women's sports. So that's the current law that has been passed, right? But perhaps in
Yeah,
future
I
it
mean,
might change. But
yeah.
right now there is a marker right now. So what I'm trying to say what I'm trying to say about AI, I think it's
Mm.
important for
So please, Marcus.
for countries or governing bodies to put a marker down, right?
Mm.
But once you put the marker down, you might be right or might be wrong. But my point here is that
Exactly.
once you have the marker, you can still shift the marker, right? But if you don't
Yeah.
put the marker, you can't shift the marker.
I totally agree. We've got to start somewhere.
We've
And
got
the
to
thing
start
is
somewhere.
that I think we are racing against time because it is racing. Um, it's evolving so much. And you're talking about even like your topic about ethics. Yeah, you did say that ethics is different from morality. If you put this AI in this country or in my home, where I can draw very conservative, I would say conservative, not politically, but just very general, traditional value kind of girl that I am, then I would like say, no, you're not supposed to play the Sim City. You can't play that game. But now we're talking about real stuff. we're talking about it expanding the domain of AI in every part of our life. Is so pervasive. We're talking about intelligent AI now, AI that has a brain that can make a decision. Probably I want to ask Alex, like, I want to define the different categories of AI that we haven't even done. I mean, elementary, secondary, tertiary, human level, super intelligence, etc. I mean, I'm still at that. I think a lot of us are still at that elementary level. Like we're talking about a robotic vacuum cleaner, right? That can make sense of the world. Just put it there, and it can knows where to go and where not to go. And it probably can talk to you in the future to tell you that, hey, you shouldn't be like throwing trash in this part of the room. maybe the
Yeah,
maybe the vacuum cleaner can tell me that. So we are racing so much against time.
yeah. I'll give you an
um
example, right? Vacuum cleaners. Let's stay with vacuum cleaners. So I think it's
yeah,
okay for I think it's okay for manufacturers to put AI into vacuum cleaners to know where it's gone and remember the past and things like going back. The sensors are there,
and
and
just spy on your brothers and sisters.
yeah. But if the manufacturers start putting in different sorts of technology, whether you say you
Mm,
mentioned about talk about spying or putting a mic, right, and trying to listen. That's one. The other one with if they have a button that I won't say button that there's a function that activates
mm,
all the vacuum cleaners that they manufacture, right, into
yeah,
into
wow,
whatever. So look, these are the stuff that is pretty scary, right?
yeah.
So I think uh there must be some sort of, I wanted to use the word consensus, right? But consensus is difficult, right? Consensus is difficult.
It's also a very politically sensitive word.
Yeah,
That's why
yeah,
you don't
yeah.
have the
It is
Americans.
right.
And the thing is, I want to interject, right, really to break it down for the audience. You talked about, for example, having all these robots, like the vacuum cleaning robots, for example, to talk to each other, and then from a single source of central control, which it is capable of getting it done because they are all run by digital. Then if you can have someone come in to control all these appliances and all these robots which is within the house, um, to take a certain action, then that's going to be dangerous. But the thing is that this is already being expounded on right now, Alex. We are going into that kind of capability that corporations do hold the key to that. Am I right to say that, Alex?
I mean, sure, absolutely. I think, but the point here is that we. Well, I wrote a paper very very long time ago, economic paper about why are there firms. That's the actual title. Why are there firms? Right?
Yeah.
It's a economic paper and all this. But by the end of the day, why corporations, why businesses exist, is
Mm,
because of profits.
mm,
It's as simple as that, right? That's the reason why there are corporations, and of course, you organize themselves. And so, if you give it total free reign, it will, like you said, it will go crazy, right? I mean, that's absolutely without ethics, and that's what happened. Um, mm, that's what happened in the when you have imperialism, right, and then you have slavery. I don't know whether you know about the story about
yes.
sugar, right? So sugar plantation, sugar in itself, right, has a very long history, uh, and its impact on slavery, right? Because you have your UK and you have just sugar, right? A lot of people, the Europeans love sugar, right? And they realized that the only way to grow sugar is you need people to grow sugar. So they in return for sugar, they have people from Africa going to, say, for example, in the US and sugar plantation, and so slavery started with that. So again, if you give the world today free will, and then
Mm,
slavery will probably be still around, right? So I would say kudos to Great Britain previously. I mean, they were the ones who actually abolished slavery as well. So that really is something great. But is that agreement, right, globally, to say that okay, slavery is bad? Sure, it still happens, but generally everybody will, if you ask anybody, they will say that's a bad thing, right? So this
Yeah.
is what we're talking about, to put a certain marker down to that things that is able to um, cut across different countries, different cultures, different regions. But
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it's going to be incredibly difficult for the world to agree on a single set of
Yeah.
ethics for AI.
Yeah.
It's going to be
So
really.
yeah, and because at one of your points, I'm looking at, ladies and gentlemen, you following us. I see the numbers going in and out. You've got some viewers looking at us right now. Go below the post. Um, you have this point about business ethics. I think the
Right.
general public will understand more about business ethics, and to bring this across to the general public for our current affairs. 2 days ago, Sam Altman of OpenAI decided that OpenAI will no more be a for-profit corporation, but it will exist as a non-profit corporation, which is the contentious point where Elon Musk is suing him or suing OpenAI because it should exist as a non-profit. And my question is, um, even if it exists as a non-profit, in terms of from the business point of view, you still need a P&L to be sustainable. You still need profits in order to plow back to continue your business. You still need to pay um, your overheads, which is huge because you're talking about huge data centers, and then you've got all these highly intelligent super geniuses who are paid $1 million for salaries. So how far does it go? Even if we're saying that um, profits, for-profit companies, turning it into non-profit companies for artificial intelligence, and they're all racing towards a super power. So does it even matter? Because even if you declare yourself as non-profit, you still need that to survive. You still need money to sustain. So you are still trying to chase for for revenue.
Hmm.
Alex.
I agree. Look. If you look at it from capitalism, let's talk about capitalism, right?
Yeah.
Of course, you have different kinds of organizations, right? One first kind of organization that the country will have is the government agencies, right? Government organizations, which is for
Mm,
government, and within capitalism there is companies, there is for-profit companies, right? But imagine
mm,
it. But I also believe that there are a very important place, right, for social enterprises, right?
yeah.
It's a very important place for social enterprises. So imagine you're a, a, a society that purely only has um, for-profit organizations, and there is no co-ops, there is no social enterprises. I think
Yeah.
that is a very dangerous society. Right?
Yeah.
Just pure capitalism, because pure capitalism in itself, right? And if you put AI on top of it, it's just going to accelerate everything,
Yeah,
right?
because we probably will have fascism, which is the topic that a lot of people are talking right now, the power in your hands, that
I won't go
sole
there. I
power.
won't go there.
Yeah,
But
I know, because it's something that I can't even talk about. But you're right, because um, you stated about corporate social responsibility, CSR. Um, a company that is driven by um, triple P bottom lines, or just P bottom line, the profit bottom line. Um, it's really highly dangerous. Um, uh, and how do we go forward? It's a big topic that I don't think we can cover, but definitely would love you to come back to cover about this topic about ethics and
yeah,
AI. And you talked about um, um, all these companies social enterprise. I mean, there are social enterprise, but they're failing miserably. Ben and Jerry is made out to be a social enterprise, but it's going bankrupt anyway. It's closing down. You've got Singapore trying to push forward with social enterprise. Um, It's not flourishing. It's really hard. It needs a third pillar. I mean, yes, it needs human capital. It needs talent capital. It needs, it needs the three P: profit, people, public support, which is from governmental support. So that's where I think we have to hit the nail on the head. Like, will we ever get policies or guardrails from top down, knowing that AI comes from bottom up? It's from the grassroots, it's from talented people, it's bottom up. But now we're talking about top down kind of regulation. I see it's going to be really hard. There's no one way. It's convergent meeting divergence. It's really tough.
Yeah, I think
Will there be any success you see? And in
I
what
don't think so.
aspect?
Honestly, if you ask me, I mean, the pessimistic me will say no. There's no way that you come to look. We 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 can't even agree. There's no way. I don't see it on any way the world will agree on something, right? So it's
Not even climate change.
yeah.
It's already affecting everyone.
Not not even the definition of climate change. Not even talking about climate change. Right? The definition of climate change is even that is open, right? We have look. We humans being humans, we have different cultural values. We are looking at different legal frameworks. No, and I think the key point, right? There is a lot of competition between you and me. Say, I'm just looking at whether it's at a personal level and a corporate level, and there's as at a country level as well or region level. There's a lot of competition as well. So if I'm to put on some guardrails on my end, and if those guardrails potentially make me, lose my speed in terms of development, I it's something that I have to give up, right? So the question here would be, if there's a race, and if you put guardrails, it's just going to slow down my race, and that's probably the reason why the US and the UK decided not to join the International AI Declaration for AI safety. No, I don't think there's any right and any wrong. It's just for them to signal that say that okay, I think we we value this more than that, right? But that speaks volume, right? I think we need to really have to be able to enforce some form of accountability as well at multiple levels, whether it's again human level, whether is it you if you are developing the AI or whether you're using the AI and the kind of thing, right? So it's like fire. Personally, I think it's pretty much
Yeah,
so.
you know,
Fire is the first. If you think about it, fire is the first dual use tool, right? Because fire you can use. There's a lot
mm,
of good uses of fire. You can
it can go
do
both
a nice
ways.
stick, right? But you can actually also use fire for pretty bad stuff, right? I mean, so that's the reason why there are specific laws for arson. So perhaps I think if you think about if there's specific laws on how to use fire or the fire whatever that the fire damages, perhaps you should start thinking about maybe this tool here. Oh, well, we're starting to think about social media, right? Social media is also wildfire. Wildfire
Mm,
on social is
yeah.
actually on media. So basically, it's wildfire media rather than social media. Look, it's we crazy.
Wildfire media.
No, it's viral.
Yeah,
Viral is on
yeah,
fire, right?
yeah.
So that's basically it.
Yeah, and I like the point that we started off today about responsible AI. Responsible AI in the hands of corporations, because now we're looking at a very oligopolistic scenario, right? We've got all these probably five huge companies, Anthropic, Google, Amazon, Meta, XAI, OpenAI, which is in the Western world, competing. Of course, you've got again in the Chinese world. So it's really that this oligopolistic kind of competition, and
I,
and I think that responsibility lies in their hands. And will they ever be responsible? That's the big question. And that lies in the hands of their CEO, right?
I wouldn't want to use. I mean, technology in itself doesn't have a nationality, so I wouldn't want to say that the West versus the East. I don't think that's beneficial, right? I would think that technology is technology, and if it's for good, right? Everybody should use it. I said if it's for good, right? So the only question here is that, unfortunately, is a lot of this stuff with AI is dual use, meaning that there is the good and the bad. It really depends on how you use it, right? But it's really about developing this consciousness about that we know the kind of powers that we have potentially within our hands, right?
Mm,
It's really about, again, about balancing, for whoever the countries to start about, regulating it, to also balance innovation and regulation,
yeah,
because this is absolutely important.
yeah,
um a lot of things to think about, really a lot of things
yeah.
to think about.
Yeah,
And
and I like to, because there's so much things that we are talking about in a very macro sense, I like to pose a couple of questions to wrap this up. A first question, share your point again, reverting back to your point, bias and discrimination. Uh, we do know that you can impute a certain biasness into AI for it to like or dislike certain characteristics, right? I mean, we've kind of debated, this is in the open already, right? Uh, an AI that dislike colored people. I mean, I'm not quite sure if that has been resolved, but there is a debate over there. And AI that doesn't like a certain kind of probably orientation. So that is something that I see we'll have to get into the conversation. How does it become independent and not geared towards any particular discrimination or biasness? And really, Alex, the person and the company, the corporation that is actually determined by the group of talents and the CEO, they will impute that into the AI. Am I right?
yeah, so I think number one, I feel, I mean, we're using it as well, right? So
Yeah.
we're right in the thick of this. I think number one, you have to realize that it's impossible to eliminate human bias.
Mm,
Okay, we're talking about human bias. We're not even talking about AI, right? It's impossible to
yeah.
eliminate human bias. If it's
Yeah.
impossible to eliminate human bias, then
Yeah.
then it'll be next to impossible to eliminate human bias in AI, because the
Yeah.
creators of AI are human, right?
Yeah.
So let's recognize that, right? I'm just stating it out. It's impossible to eliminate
Yeah.
human bias in AI,
Yeah.
right? But what we need to do, but the creators, what they need to do is to be open. So they are, again, you have your creator, right? And then you have people who use it. And say, for example, so a lot of so essentially what we're saying is that it's this feedback loop, right? So the
Yeah.
users who uses it, right, have to understand that, okay, this is AI and this and it's bias. And if they found there's some any form of bias,
Mm.
you should have this feedback loop to tell the creator, say, hey,
Mm.
creator, look, this is
Yeah.
bias.
Do we
Okay,
have
this is
that
wrong.
right now? Do we have that? No, right?
I,
We don't have that with ChatGPT and all this, right?
well, I mean, I'm pretty sure if you want, you can actually report whatever that's wrong within the AI, right? But the
Yeah.
only question is whether they're going to do anything about it or not.
Yeah.
But you will want to have that. I For us in our system, we want to have that feedback loop to know
Yeah.
that, okay, this is not right, right?
Yeah.
To, if let's say, for example, going back to your niece, and if your niece is 14 year olds playing it, as there's actually regulations on violent games for underage
Yeah.
children. I think you know that, right? So, but on your end, if you're the guardian of your niece, 14-year-old, you shouldn't be letting her.
Play the SimCity.
Well, I will almost say that because actually I started playing SimCity for a long time. I mean, when we were kids, but back then it was very different,
Really? I
right?
thought that's a girl's game.
Well, building cities is fun, right? I mean,
Yeah, it is,
but
it is, it is. I
I
mean, the technology is fun. The technology.
yeah, the technology is fun. Building cities because it's a strategy game, so it's not a girls' game. Come
Mm,
on, right? There's a lot of guys who actually play it. I only play for a certain amount of time, right? But
yeah.
the point here is that I think going back to there are games that's being regulated. So I
Mm,
think we if we if we humans, the users, understand that it's bias, right, and it's impossible to eliminate this bias. So we should be the ones to be to contribute to fairness, meaning that we will have to let the creators know, right, that hey, guys, this is bias. Can you do you know about this? Set this up as a case, right? So there should be continuous conversations between creators and users to have this sort of feedback loop to make sure so we can make the models better. So
Yeah,
instead of
hopefully,
going up in
yeah.
arms and trying to burn the AI creators down, uh, look, I don't think you
Trash
benefit.
that computer.
I don't think you benefit in any way, right?
All right,
But
I
of
want to
course,
also, yeah,
I
because
think
this is
the
really
creators
getting so
also need to be
interesting.
open-minded as well. The creators
Yeah,
need to be
of
open-minded
course.
about things.
We are 1 hour into the show. I hope you
Oh
can come
wow,
back again next week.
oof,
Because time, we are just like racing against time, right? Tomorrow I'm going to meet Vince Michael because every day I have a show. Um, Tomorrow I'm going to meet Vince Michael from Canada, and the next day I hope you can come back next week, Monday and Tuesday, to continue this topic. Alex, you wrote here privacy AI. Lots of questions on that, and I want you to talk about copyright and IP issues. And then you talk about transparency, explain, explainability. That's my six syllable.
explainability.
Explainability. No, that's seven syllable. And
Ah,
also accountability and safety AI potential for misuse. Two more questions for us to wrap up. And you talk about autonomous AI. I think that's huge because you did talk about like a Tesla car. When it gets into an accident, who is responsible? Is it Tesla? Is it the developer, or is it the user, the end user? And quick questions just to wrap up, and hopefully Alice can come back for the next few episodes on AI, because this is like so important. It's the sign of the times, everyone. Got to tune in. See, look at the numbers. It's going up. It's going in and out. We've got people watching us. Copyright issues. Um, and the question is, if I were to use ChatGPT and to develop my avatar into uh, a Japanese, what do you call it, Ghibli anime cartoon, will I be sued? Or will the users be sued because they're using copyrighted material? Or will the developers be sued? Or will everyone be sued? That's one question. Copyrights, well, am I safe from being sued? Number two, privacy issues. I'm chatting with AI. I'm chatting with Brooke, XAI. I'm telling them things that is so secret that I don't tell anyone. And they promise to erase the history. Well, I don't know.
you
You know
sure
what I'm
about that?
trying to say? I don't know. So that's why the funny question is, how private are these? I mean, it's almost like you using the social media, you using your footprint in the internet world, and now you're having all this footprint. Um, who owns them? And um, how do we really get rid of them one day? So, we've got real questions. Would you like to wrap up on these two before we come back again on all
Yeah,
these issues?
let's talk about copyright first. I think copyright's
Yeah,
number one. Of course, you have the copyright law, right? So
yeah,
whatever the law is within the country, slightly different in terms of copyright. We're not even talking about AI. We're talking about copyright, right? So there are laws governing copyright in every
mm,
country right now, right?
yeah,
The problem actually is not sometimes about copyright,
yeah,
but whether is it enforceable. Meaning
mm,
that, for example, if you are so your face, right? You're talking about your face is in Singapore, right?
yeah,
Your face,
yeah.
and the company actually
Someone
is,
uses
for
it.
example, another country. Is it? Can you even sue them?
Yeah,
So that's a big question mark. Can you even sue them, right? So in that sense, the is to enforce a certain law. There's actually
yeah,
difficulty,
mm,
right? And it's whether you can or cannot sue them, that's one, and
Mm,
whether the cost of suing them is also going to be expensive. So
yeah,
unless there's a class action, and then perhaps you can join that class, and perhaps that's possible. But the point here is again, and then going back to accountability. Yeah, they use it and all this, but very often a lot of companies know that they can't at a personal level. There's nothing you can do unless the government
yeah,
decide to step in, like to do something about it, right? So this is why and that's the importance of having regulation around certain things, uh, especially on copyright. Look, again, there's in recent in we're talking about your face, right? Safe, but maybe not your face. But if you're a musician, if the AI
mm,
company
yeah,
decide to use your music, or Ghibli Studios, right? If they sort of decide to use
yeah,
your creation and not pay you, how would you feel?
yes,
So at a moral level, right, ethics level, you have to we have to decide collectively whether that's a
mm.
right or wrong thing to do.
But we are far away from that kind of consensus, right?
Yeah, we are.
Yeah,
So
we're
what
really,
we need
really
to do,
far.
I mean, I'm talking about it is simply because we know I'm actually
We
on
need
the
to
other
start
side.
having
I
the
would
conversation.
love,
Yeah,
I would love to be able to create, to collect as much data as possible and without any
mm,
restrictions. And that has already happened, right?
yeah,
So the question here is that we have to ask ourselves whether is it a right thing or to do and a wrong thing to do. And then we talk about AI economics in a couple of episodes, right? Back. So I believe that there should be a new economics to govern this about copyright, about data, about how we use the data within the AI. And
yeah,
these
yeah,
are brand new
yeah.
economics,
What
and
what
we are still very
about,
far away from
yeah,
it.
as a brand new economics, what about privacy issues? Something that I just
Now
spoke.
you're talking about privacy issues,
Yeah,
and
like for example, I'm gonna ask like AI chat GPT, how do I kill someone? That's
look,
a secret.
look, privacy is another thing altogether. I'm a very simple person. Again,
Yeah.
you got to understand. I come from a world where the cloud and storage and things like that, putting your
Is it
stuff
ever
on the.
possible to get that erased, even though they say that the history? Because I do know that, I mean, these are still your footprint, right? They are somewhere. Because they say that,
Okay,
oh, they do not capture the history. They are somewhere. If I
so
decide to kill my neighbor,
so for everybody listening in, I mean, I have a very 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 simple rule, right? For
yeah,
the data, for my own personal data,
yeah,
right? I put it into two different buckets, right?
yeah,
One bucket is data I don't care about, and the
yeah,
data I care about.
yeah.
For the data I care about, it will never go online. It's as simple
Mm-hmm.
as that, right? Because you have to
Mm.
assume that whatever that goes up there
It's your
is out,
footprint.
yeah, is
Yeah.
already out there, and somebody will use it. So
Mm.
so for me, essentially, I still have a pretty large storage. Ironic, right? Because
Yeah.
I'm a cloud guy, I'm a storage guy, and when
You
AI and
don't
all
want
this,
it
but
to
yet I
go out
still,
there.
yeah, and I still
So you
keep
have your own
stuff.
data center.
Uh, well, mini, right? I've got my own AI backup and storage and back home. I mean, cloud storage and all this at home. But these are the data I care about, and this will never go out
Mm.
anywhere, right?
Mm.
And of course, we do double backup, triple backup, and that kind of thing, right? But it's
Mm.
actually on our own, so we have to
Yeah.
decide. So
Mm.
if there's any sort of advice, I would say that you have to decide
Mm.
what data do you care about and what you don't care about. So if you then there's no once the for data that you don't care about, you can let it out there. Then you no forget about whatever privacy, right? So you can let the world use whatever and
Yeah.
frame. So you can't
Yeah.
blame anybody else but yourself on determining what kind of data you are that you really care about, and that part you have to keep very close to you.
Yeah. So on that note, I'd like to thank Alex for an
All
hour.
right, thank you.
We're 60 minutes, 69 minutes into the podcast live. And people are coming in and watching us in and out. And I invite you to talk to us by your comments below. I'll look at Alex Chan's notes below about today's topic. A lot of bullets there, ethics and AI. I'd like to welcome Alex again for a couple more episodes to expound on these topics because we are into these very, very contentious, controversial issues. I mean, let the scientists do their job, let the technicians, let the super geniuses develop their AIs. But I think as humanity, we do have a stake in there. And then Alex and myself, we love to you to come on to the show, watch us, comment, state your questions to us, either here or at YouTube, and it's going to be replayed, delayed on all podcast platforms. It takes a little bit of time, but it goes first live on Facebook and YouTube, and catch us first because Facebook has the new algorithm. Live will be out, and they will not record and stay in beyond 30 days. So all the live shows will be off, okay, as compared to in the past. It's going to stay on in the past, but now after 30 days, they will erase that unless you bring it down to your own server. So again, Alex, thank you so much for your time. I think uh, the audience have a great education, including myself. It's always a great time to have you, Alex, come back to expound on these topics and to expound and expand on these issues. Alex, over to you. The final 30 seconds.
Right. I think the purpose of us being here is to start the conversation. I mean, if you have not started thinking about it, right? I mean, we have been thinking about it, and I don't think there's a monopoly uh, of what is right and what is wrong, right? But it's really a ongoing conversation,
Yeah,
and because of these, and because it's going to touch us in future, right, and our next generation as well.
yeah.
Oh, for us, maybe not so much, but really, quite literally, for next generation, we have to really think about, like I said, putting
It's
the
already
money
affecting
down.
us tomorrow and today, Alex. Not next generation.
Well, I like to think that whatever we do is going to be more exponential for next
Exponential.
generation, right? It's going to be
Oh,
exponential for next
yeah,
generation,
yeah,
right? AI is
definitely.
going to be native to them,
I can't even imagine the kind of world that's going to be.
right?
Maybe in Mars.
Right? Maybe not for my kids. My kids are like in the teens. They are not AI native, right? But they
Mm,
are social media native. So the
mm,
next generation, I mean, which will be my children's kids, they will be AI native, meaning that
mm,
they will be born with AI into their lives, and they think that
yeah.
that this is really part of life. Is like saying that. Imagine telling my kids, "There's no social media 20 years ago, 50 years ago." I say, "What? No internet, no social media. What world is
And
that?"
no, and no, and no emails, right? How did you live a world without
Oh,
Google
right,
Map and emails, right? You can't even imagine that, right? So
right,
on
yeah,
that note, yeah, on that note, we always um, welcome you to be back. We always have these very deep conversations. They are huge conversations. They're of macro size. They are of mega size. But hopefully we are able to have more conversations like this, so we can break them down into parts where our viewers can share and also participate.
yep.
Alex, it's always great to have you,
It's great to
great
be here.
conversationalist and great engager. Um, Definitely, we need to bring in Elon Musk sometime into our conversation, or we can go to him at X and pose him some of these big questions. So thank you, Alex. Come back
Yeah,
again. We'll arrange for our audience to have our questions and answers in the future um, to participate in these kind of global conversations. Thank you again, Alex.
thank you.
Always a joy to have you. We will come back and look out, ladies and gentlemen, on Facebook on the next episode. We do not really announce the timing. You just have to catch us when we go live.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Alex.